My background is the complete opposite of what I always thought a collector would be. I was born in the East End of London. My parents both left school when they were 13. They were very sweet, simple people, but there was no education. There was nothing in my background that would lead me to working with this medium and some of the greatest photographers ever. So I have to pinch myself every time I have to talk about collecting, because to me a collector is somebody like a Rothschild or JP Morgan, somebody who comes from enormous, enormous wealth. I start a career making movies in England. I got tired of struggling. I came to Los Angeles with the intention of maybe trying to meet some people in the film industry naively, and I planned to stay 2 weeks. I think the second or third day, I get invited to a dinner party, and the dinner party was hosted by a photographer, and he had a small collection of photos up on his, and I was totally mesmerized by seeing this installation in this guy's house. And it turned out he also collected vintage cars, and his wife says to him, well, you can't buy another vintage car until you sell some of these photos. And it turned out he was willing to sell these photos. And there was one photo on the wall which I kept looking at. This is a photo called Premiere at Carthay Circle by a great photographer called Max Yavno. And there was something about this image, and my theory is that all collecting is autobiographical. Whatever we choose to collect and live with has some kind of personal resonance for us. So as a young filmmaker trying to break into Hollywood, this image maybe summed up my whole life's aspiration. And I said to him, well, how much is it? And he says, it's $400. So I have a total net worth of $2,000 to my name. I say, I'd like to buy this photograph, which was totally irrational. And I thought if I was rational and sensible, I would spend the money and maybe have brakes put in the car. But there was something drew me to this image, and it made me want to possess it. So I bought the photograph, and that started my collecting career. My constant obsession was Cartier-Bresson, and wherever I could, I tried to buy more Cartier-Bresson photos. I became a total Cartier-Bresson junkie, addict. So I go to Paris, and I can't tell you how nervous I am. I'm walking down the Rue de Rivoli. He lived in 137 Rue de Rivoli, opposite the Tuileries Gardens, 2 minutes from the Louvre. I'm kind of like so nervous, pressing the button to be buzzed up. So I finally, oh God, I'm like, I can't do it. But I did it. I pressed the button. Oh, please come up. So here I am, poor boy from London, meeting Cartier-Bresson. It's like if you're a painter, you get to meet Rembrandt. Or if you're a composer, you get to meet Mozart. And I was amazed how humbly he lived. And there was not one single photograph in the whole apartment. And I suppose that meeting changed my life. And he allowed me access into his archive. So over the years, he would make prints for me from negatives he'd never really printed. Towards the end of his life, together with his wife, Martine Frank, they set up a foundation. That's where his negatives and his archives are stored. And under the terms of the bequest to the foundation, no prints will ever be made. So a lot of what you see here are very, very rare prints. Many of these images were printed at my request. And my only regret is I should have asked him for more prints, because he only made 3 of this, or 3 of this, or 3 of this. And these are the last physical prints, and there will never be any more. He was the loyal patron of Leica, and that's why Leica and Cartier-Bresson go together like milk and honey. So it's a perfect symbiotic relationship. I have to confess, I'm not a technical person, but I can appreciate the beauty and incredible design of Leicas. I wish I understood more about cameras, but if I was a photographer, which I'm not, I would buy a Leica too. In 40 years of collecting and doing this, the only mistakes I've ever made were the photos I didn't buy. It's ridiculous what people spend money on today in our society, $30,000 for a Louis Vuitton handbag. Okay, but when you see something great that becomes part of you, that haunts you, find a way to buy it. A great photo to me is one that changes me. I'm one person before I see it, and I'm another person after it. Every photo I've ever bought in 40 years has touched me because it brought out something in me. And I think that's what collecting is all about. It's a form of a self-expression. And all the great collections I've ever seen have been put together by people who have that sensitivity. I always like to make discoveries. I always like to find the less obvious ones. And I think what makes this hopefully a rich experience for the audience is that they're seeing great Cartier-Bressons that they've known, that they've seen in this book and have lived with, but they're also discovering gems the way I did too. There's not many photographers that you can hang 100 print show and every print is a masterpiece.